Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we talk about games, discuss the industry, and stream for fun. Today we're going to be looking at Ubisoft Showcase. So this is one I didn't necessarily anticipate doing, but I know it's kind of a bigger company, of course. And so I wanted to be able to do it, and I wanted to take the time. Audio sounds good, so let's go ahead and get started. I did just finish a Starfield direct review of the showcase. That's linked up in a card at the top right. And then I also did, but there's been several. I also just did Xbox showcase. That's another card right here. And then I also did, I'm thinking, Summer Game Fest and also the PlayStation showcase. And I really think Ubisoft is going to be my last one. Each of these is like an hour long. They're taking a lot of time. I want to get back into streaming, and I'm enjoying going through these. Um, but it is. Oh, my audio is glitching out again. Hold on, folks. Testing 1, 2, 3. Seems like that fixed it. Let's test it here. Let's make sure. Nope, it didn't. Hold on, folks. Let me try one more thing. Alright, testing 1, 2, 3. Just wanting to make sure that the audio is correct here. Perfect, sounds like that actually worked. So what I did is I tried unplugging my headphone jack from my headset to my controller, unplugged that, waited a little bit, plugged it back in. That didn't work the first time. Second thing I did is I just went to my settings menu, just pulled that up for a few seconds. While the settings was up, unplugged the headphone jack, plugged it back in. Once I heard the little mic connect, I hopped back into the game and fixed the audio. So hopefully that helps, folks. So the Ubisoft showcase. So again, I've done PlayStation, I've done Summer Game Fest, I've done Xbox, Starfield Direct I just finished, and now we're doing Ubisoft. And I know there's Capcom and there's a few others out there, but I honestly don't think I'm going to do them. Most of the games have been looked at already. There's plenty of other stuff online if you want to check it out. But I also want to get back to streaming. I want to get back to gaming. Boy, these do take a lot of time. I mean, it's watching the showcase, it's taking time to write stuff down and kind of analyze things, and then I gotta stream it like I'm doing now, and then I gotta make thumbnails, and I gotta, put all the tags in for the video and edit it a little bit if there's issues, and then get it posted. And I mean, it's taken time. So I'm glad to provide this content for folks, but I do want to get back to gaming. And the other showcases, I don't think they're necessarily going to be as big. I think we got the bulk of what's going to be coming out anyway. So, let's just check my audio again to make sure it's okay. So, the Ubisoft showcase. This is Ubisoft Forward. This one honestly was pretty small, even though it was still about an hour and 5 minutes. So that was kind of a little frustrating. So, the first thing that we see is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. This is coming out December 7th, 2023, which is Pearl Harbor Day, if you didn't remember. And this is taking place 15 years after all of the humans left Pandora from the first movie. 15 years, you go into a cryo sleep. 15 years later, you're going to wake back up. and then start figuring out what it means to be Navi. So again, we're going to be having a repeat of the first movie, except it's a video game and with a different character. So there's going to be new characters, there's going to be some new wildlife, and it is going to be an open world. This world will have different biomes from the looks of it, everything that we recognize from the first movie. And then, let's see, visually, the game did look really nice. It looked vibrant, it looked lively. Some of the textures didn't quite seem to pull through. And some of the animations, even though not big, they were noticeable that the animations would kind of like snap together or snap in place. So there wasn't exactly a really refined kind of fluidity there that we would expect from animations. Whether this was, switching weapons to some kind of a move, to hopping on to your little, massive pterodactyl bird thing, flying around and stuff. You do actually get to fly around. You do actually get to have different rides too, different things to kind of get you around Pandora faster besides just running the whole time, which is really nice. But while flying, we also did see kind of some changes around the periphery of the screen, and I wonder if they did that to try to maintain the textures and maintain the frame rate without trying to move through the world too quickly, where we were going to start having anti-aliasing problems and start having frame rate drops. Because they didn't really show a lot of flying, but the bits that they did show either looked cinematic, which wasn't really gameplay, or it kind of had that blurry periphery on the end while you were flying. So I'm not really exactly sure what to make of that. Again, we didn't see a ton of it, but I kind of wonder if they did that on purpose just so they could not have frame rate issues. The game definitely meets the expectations of being in Pandora. I mean, it looks the same, folks. You're going to visit the tree. You're going to visit the place where the big battle took place at the end of the first movie. You're going to be roaming through the forests and stuff. You're going to be seeing a lot of the same animals and type of flora and stuff. I mean, yeah, you're going to be able to experience the rituals too, just like in the first movie. I mean, this is like the first movie 2.0, and it's definitely a fanboy video game. I think there's been quite a bit of effort put into it. Some of it actually does look pretty good, but again, I think there needs to be a little bit of refining, like with the animation issues. I didn't necessarily see any frame rate problems, but I have been looking through a lot of games lately, so that's possible. But there too, during the showcase, and this bugged me some, and I'm not usually one to get into kind of political type stuff anymore. I did that in my 20s. I'm older and I'm tired, honestly, so I don't get into it too much. But I got to get into it a little bit on this one, because when they shove politics into the things that don't need to have it, that's when I feel like I need to talk about it a little bit. And this movie is definitely politically charged. I haven't watched The Way of the Water. I eventually will, but the game is too. I mean, the whole focus is feeling bad about the industrialization, about humans being mean and horrible and taking over and creating genocide and wiping out all of this stuff, which I agree, which is bad. And the main reason is for this type of material to keep the industrial machine running for the American colonies, or for the white people colonies, however you want to term it. But there's such an underlying thing there. And I gotta say, I mean, that is not the way. That's not how most of us are. And there's this even underlying hate in the game, as your main character is talking about stuff, or as you hear another protagonist as one of the main NPCs as a supporting character talking about things and what's going on. absolutely, it is horrible. It did happen. Um, but, for Pete's sakes, that doesn't happen on that level anymore. And this game is such a push that industrialization is bad, that, we need to go green, and that, the first world countries are, are colonizers, honestly, and just like wiping out and taking over everything. And again, to an extent, yes, that's been a part of history, and yes, to an extent, that still happens today. The whole, third world is feeling the effects of the strength of the dollar and the strength of the interest rates through the Federal Reserve right now. That's a whole economic thing. But again, the game is so charged toward what America is, what first world countries are, like in the European Union and Great Britain, that it's literally like an attack on itself. That's what it feels like. And so, am I buying the game? No, I'm not. If people are so into helping save the planet, they can stop using their car today. They can stop turning the lights on in their house. They can give their money and donate it to somebody else that's homeless, and they can provide food for them too. You don't have to start with a social program with someone else's money. You can literally do it with your own resources today. So why wait? Be a socialist. You don't have to wait at all. But we don't need propaganda pushing stuff where the way that I choose, to live, or your next door neighbor, or even yourself, that doesn't have to be demonized, because we're not hurting anybody. If you want to go after somebody, go after the politicians that have the influence and control, that make the backdoor deals. Go after the huge mega companies that are outsourcing all of their labor and material resourcing to other countries, like in Africa and over in Asia. Like the amount of outsourcing that Apple does, it's insane. And the type of quote-unquote slave labor that they're having in some African countries is disgusting. And a lot of other companies are doing this too. But yeah, changing things here in your first world country isn't going to change anything. It's just propaganda, folks. So with that out of the way, I did not enjoy Avatar, honestly, that much. It was so in your face. It was kind of ridiculous. The next game we got to see was X Defiant. We got to see how that game was kind of put together. So this had a April beta test, and I gotta say this was kind of ridiculous, because how they showed the game, any gameplay at all, was from people during the closed beta test. And it made me personally not want to play, because these streamers were just totally power brooming people right off the screen. And just totally destroying them. And, just like 5-6 kill streaks in a row, and just, it didn't make me want to play, because it's like, dude, I can't even compete. That's insane. It's going to feel again like multiplayer online with Call of Duty or PUBG or Fortnite or Apex or whatever's popular now. Valorant maybe, and Overwatch. It's just like, I'm not going to be able to compete. Why would I even want to play? But they will have another open beta if you wanted to try it yourself. This will be June 21st through the 23rd. It really felt like, too, through the gameplay, with what I was seeing with the gun mechanics and the ergonomics, it looked like COD multiplayer clone. Except the difference is that Ubisoft is taking all of the assets from different IPs, like Splinter Cell and Far Cry, and shoving it into one game. And I was kind of like, man, are you serious? That's insane. I mean, one of the factions, for Pete's sakes, is called Echelon. And it basically has a Sam Fisher with a beard. In the little picture there. So, I mean, it's just a reuse of assets that they've already had. And they're kind of just making a game of it. It's kind of like when PlayStation did All Stars. Back on like PlayStation 4. Or when... or with like how Nintendo has done Super Smash. And this isn't necessarily bad, but it just the way it was presented and the way it looks, it just feels cheap. And I gotta say too, with the closed beta test, with what we got to see from these streamers testing the game, they're all on PC. So I mean, people are absolutely going to get flippin' destroyed. This is probably going to be a cross-platform game, and so, you know, controller-wise, you're not going to be able to compete with somebody that's on PC because of the amount of precision and control they can have at their fingertips with a keyboard and a mouse. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work. It's gonna start with 5 different factions. Oh yeah, Watch Dogs was another one that's gonna be in there. So like, you know, Legion and Watch Dogs 2 and stuff like that. So yeah, you're gonna have 5 different factions. You're gonna start with 14 different maps, 24 guns, and 44 different attachments. So there's probably going to be a leveling or a progression system in the game. So you'll be able to unlock different things or maybe some different game modes as you play. That's how a lot of these go. And then they presented the year 1 kind of like annual pass, which I had to laugh. I honestly did, because it looks so bad. So there's going to be 4 new factions. Probably an Assassin's Creed one in there, honestly. I mean, pick 3 more IPs that Ubisoft has, and that's probably who they're going to be. 12 new guns, and then 12 new maps, on top of the ones that they're already going to have. But I had to laugh because the presentation of this looked like something done in Photoshop. Like a high school project, kind of Photoshop. So the factions were just a symbol with 4 different, each one had a different color. The 12 new guns representation was just a symbol of a pistol, silhouetted, and then the number 12 next to it. And then 12 new maps was like a world icon with 12 next to it. And I mean, it just didn't look good. Even the guy talking, he didn't seem super excited to be up there. And, yeah, there just was not much to this game. And even him, yeah, you should watch the showcase yourself if you kind of want a good laugh. But yeah, X-Defiant honestly just did not look very good. Sounds like it's going to be coming out later this year. But, you know, we already had Siege. Okay, that was supposed to be a regular full game, like back in the day, called Rainbow Six Patriots. It was too close to the Boston bombing, Marathon Bomber. And so they scrapped the whole project, and they said, well, we can't completely scrap everything, so let's just keep the multiplayer. And then they expanded on that with operators and that kind of thing. So we got Siege. Next, they came out with Extraction, which was zombies. Operators is, you know, with zombies. And that was absolutely disgusting. And now we get X-Defiant, which is basically the same thing, except it's Call of Duty multiplayer. I mean, there's nothing unique about this, folks. They didn't talk about abilities, they didn't talk about skills, they didn't talk about any kind of a skill tree. They didn't, I mean, it's maps with 5 different game modes and guns, all in first person. That is the game. And I don't really know too many people that's going to want to play that. Honestly. Yeah, that doesn't look very good. Next, we got to see Prince of Persia. So, again, you know, they got to show some gameplay. We got to see this at Summer Game Fest and also on PlayStation Showcase. So yeah, there wasn't much else to say. I mean, except that it is a God of War clone. So if you played the older God of Wars, I mean, it's It's basically you with two big blades, pecs for armor, and screaming and stuff and raging, and having these kind of like special attacks every once in a while, fighting the gods and the bosses of the game. And I mean, holy smokes, it's an original God of War ripoff. It's what it is. Except you just side scroll. You just hop skipping around, and it's a side scroll motion. They can't even get the camera right. So, really getting to see an extended gameplay trailer of this and hearing the dev talk about it, it got me less excited for the game. And this is the third time I've seen it. It's just like, oh, come on. Like, this game has been overdone at this point. in just a week, couple weeks, I've seen it 3 times now. It's just a bummer. Overall, it does look fun. It does look pretty good. Something to kind of fill your time until something bigger comes out. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed by that. We're just seeing it again. Next was a show on Netflix. So again, we got another gaming showcase with a TV show. That's all I'm going to say about that. Next, we got to see a compilation of future DLCs for games that are already out. We would see a snippet with kind of like the release date. And that's all I'm going to say about that. There wasn't much there. Some of them weren't even gameplay. It was just a little cinematic trailer. And yeah, this just didn't necessarily seem very well done. And it wasn't... I didn't feel like it was eased in very well. It was just kind of boom in your face. Here's something you're looking at. Oh yeah, this is going to be DLC for this game on this date. Like, it took me a little bit anyway to figure it out. And it was just kind of just shoved in there. But they did have dates, so that was nice. A lot of these other games also had dates too, or at least ideas of when they were coming out, kind of like other showcases. Next, we got to see The Crew, Motorfest. So again, we already got to see this one. And this is getting to see extended gameplay and stuff this time. It looks like a Forza Horizons game. So there's different types of cars, different areas to drive in. It looks more open world instead of just selecting a track and driving on it. You're going to have a garage. There's going to be competitions, races. There's probably going to be public events too, from what I was seeing. And, yeah, Forza Horizons. So, it did look good. Graphically, it looked pretty well. Frame rates didn't drop. It looked like it was engineered and built pretty well. So now we're 38 minutes in, and we've only seen 4 games. With like a dozen different DLCs that are coming. Oh, and a show on Netflix. 38 minutes, folks. I couldn't believe this. I was starting to lose my mind. Next, we got to see Assassin's Creed Nexus VR for the MetaQuest 3. And guess what? You freaking need the MetaQuest 3 if you're going to play the game. So, anyone else going to buy MetaQuest 3 for $500? How about the Apple Vision for $3,200 or $3,500? I mean, what the frick? That's insane. If you haven't seen that showcase, holy moo-moos, folks. That is over-glorified junk, in my opinion. Next, we got to see Assassin's Creed Mirage. We got to see a really much more detailed gameplay trailer this time. So we got to see some cinematic, which is like, oh great, I hope you show more than that. But we actually got to see a good amount of gameplay, which was nice, several minutes of it. Between how it feels, what it looks like, the character designs, the story, and the tools and weapons you're going to have at your disposal, including the Falcon that will help you like look around and spot stuff, which is great. It is Assassin's Creed Origins remade. That's the game. And I get to showcase it here on the channel because you folks voted for it. Yay me. I still think it'll look pretty good. Again, I think it's going to be capped at a certain frame rate. I don't think we're going to see 60. At least for console anyway. But it does actually look fun. I mean, I'm probably going to spend at least 40, 50, maybe 70 hours in the game. So there's a good amount. Area looks big. Some things I did see. Yeah, the new story trailer was never seen before. Something that's different is we get a quest board. So you can get a quest. You kind of seemed like it looked like you just bloop get to jump right into kind of the area where the quest is, and then you get to start your quest. So that's kind of different. The Falcon is back to survey the area and mark enemies and stuff, which is great. We're also gonna have something that I didn't like. I'll call it a chain link assassination. So you're able to pick targets within a certain range from each other, it looks like. And so what we got to see is that you're kind of on like a balcony or like a rafter of sorts, and you're able to mark 3 separate targets, and then you're able to mark those targets a second time, except each time you mark them, it shows kind of like a ghost image of yourself next to that target. And then you can execute it, and you'll go 1, 2, 3. Kill all 3 with a close melee assassination attempt or attack with your blade, and they can't stop you. I mean, basically, you execute it, and you just watch it happen. And so that was kind of a bummer, because I'm not really excited about the game doing things for me. Like, I want to be able to play the game, I want to be able to do it, and I don't necessarily like help in a game unless I'm like in a prologue or something and there's some grace there, that's fine. But I personally like challenges myself. And I feel like this is kind of like a cheap way to help you when there's a lot of enemies in the game. And I already feel like overall the game is simple enough. I mean, when you learn the tools, when you learn the area, when you learn what other weapons and things at your disposal, and all of the different ways you can blend in and disappear with an environment, they're still making it easier. It's like, you folks don't need to make it easier. People just need to get better at the flippin' game. So I particularly don't like the chain link assassinations. Because, yeah, I feel like it removes a level of challenge already from a fairly easy game. Now, there's targets in the game always that are more difficult. Okay, we got to see this in Origins, we got to see this in Odyssey, and we got to see this in Valhalla. But again, we've had Origins, Origins 2, and Origins 3. It's just 3 different iterations of the same thing. I enjoyed them all. I haven't finished any of them, actually, because again, I feel like I'm playing the same thing. Each game I put in about 40 or 50 hours. But again, I lost interest. I felt like I was playing the same thing, and here we're probably going to have another one. Except visually this time, it's going to be the same thing as Origins. So luckily Origins came out a while. I think they're just trying to pull out something that they made a ton of money at, and so Mirage is it. They did state earlier that they wanted to go back to the roots. Focus on something that made them a lot of money, basically. And, yeah, Ubisoft has had trouble, especially last year, in some of the last iterations of games, because they look like X-Defiant, right? Or like Extraction. Their games lately just really haven't been that good, and they haven't been able to keep their live service games going. So, yeah, they're trying to go back, trying to get some money in the coffers, and they think Mirage is their ace in the hole, The problem is that a lot of people are going to buy Starfield. And now this isn't coming out in August like it was several months ago. It's now coming out in October. So here a lot of people are either going to buy early access or the collection, or they're going to buy the controller on top of buying the game. And that's a lot of money. And to turn around and buy Assassin's Creed in 6 weeks? No. I don't think people are going to do that. They're still going to be roaming around in Starfield, having a blast. That's going to be most of us. Let's see, was there anything else? Nope. Yeah, that was it for AC Mirage. Next was the president of Ubisoft actually came out. The French sector. They got multiple headquarters around different studios around the world. But yeah, the president came out, and this was poorly executed, unfortunately. He was talking about, saying thank you to the fans and kind of what they've been doing as a studio, and like they've had a really good showcase so far, which honestly, no. They hadn't. But he was a little hard to understand a little bit. There were some other devs too. By the way, every single game, big game, also had a dev come out and talk about the game. Usually the lead of the studio. So, Avatar, Defiant, Prince of Persia, The Crew, Assassin's Creed Mirage, they all had somebody come out and talk about the game. Including the Netflix TV show. To talk about their project. Which that really slowed down the pace. And then we get to hear the president to basically say thank you. He is clearly reading from a teleprompter. So he couldn't even wing it on the fly at all. And then he misnames the next game. Their big one at the end. And here was Star Wars Outlook. And I had to rewind it to make sure that I heard him right. But yep, Star Wars Outlook. So I'm excited for this game too. I mean, Outlaws sounds and looked great. And Outlook, I mean, it's like, okay, what's this one going to be? Apparently it's a different game. Of course, I'm just kidding, folks. Clearly he misspoke. He didn't bother correcting it. He knew he fudged up. But he didn't bother correcting it. And so the dev that came out, that's doing Star Wars Outlaws, very kindly said Star Wars Outlaws, kind of emphasized it a little bit. Again, this is coming out in 2024. We got to see a lot of gameplay this time during Summer Game Fest. Let me think, folks. Xbox, we got to see some gameplay trailer. And from the looks of it, hands down, it looks pretty good. Not a lot of frame rate issues. It seems to run pretty smooth. The animations look good. The lighting of like lasers and shields and stuff, dude, that is awesome. And the engines, yeah, the lighting is really good in the game. Really good. If you really like Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order, you're going to love this game because it's pretty much a copy. The game, the camera angles, the way the animations are of the character, the little quips and monologues, and she also has a little pet that kind of moves around the world and helps her, just like Cal has his little robot, right? I mean, everything is very similar to Jedi Survivor. It does look like it's expanded sandbox. So you get your ship, you're able to fly around, you're able to have some kind of space skirmishes. They didn't look like full space battles, more like space skirmishes. There's a few fighters and you'll work through and you'll blow them up. And again, everything looks fun, it looks great. But there are so many copies in this showcase. It's really quite frustrating. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is kind of the only one that's unique. But Defiant is Call of Duty. Prince of Persia is God of War. The TV show shouldn't have even been in there. The Crew Motorfest is Forza Horizons. Assassin's Creed Mirage is Assassin's Creed Origins. And Star Wars Outlaws is Jedi Survivor. So there's really nothing unique in these games. There's really nothing that stands out. If you are a gamer yourself and you've been doing it a while, you're easily able to watch these gameplay trailers or these showcases and be like, wow, I've played that before. That looks the same. And even the Falcon in Assassin's Creed Mirage, it looks exactly the same. Perfect to a T. Literally, took the asset, plugged it into another game. That sounds exactly like what they did. So, for a score, I give this thing an F+. Almost passing. But, there's nothing unique in this showcase. An hour and 10 minutes, they show 6 games. I'm not even kidding, folks. They show 6 games, and there's probably about a dozen or so DLCs that are coming out for games they already have. There was a ton of talking. The pace was very slow. Only 2 of the games were actually premieres. The other 4 games we'd seen already. Did they have more gameplay this time? Yes, they did, which was great. But their 2 premieres were at the beginning of the showcase. Avatar and X-Defiant. So they divvied out the surprises right at the beginning of the showcase. Again, everything kind of looks the same. One good thing, all of the games had gameplay, which was great. 38 minutes in, we've only done 4 games. The president has trouble talking on his own showcase. The nerves got to him, I guess. And he mispronounced the headliner game at the end. And didn't even correct himself. Didn't even bother to try. And he read from a teleprompter. Come on, man, this is your freaking company. What are you doing? That's pretty unprofessional. Also, the audience that they had at the showcase was smaller and just wasn't very active, wasn't very energetic. There wasn't really any passion. You know, you could tell when they were supposed to clap, like someone was holding up a prompt card and, you know, they're clapping at the end and stuff, and there just wasn't really any life in the showcase. There was somebody that put all of the trailers together, and it's 25 minutes instead of an hour and 10. So yeah, I give this thing an F. Another thing that was nice, besides that all the games having gameplay, the other thing that was nice is there wasn't any ads. They weren't trying to push a monitor, some game service. They weren't trying to push DoorDash. Like Summer Game Fest was really bad. They were just showcasing their games. But yeah, in my opinion, they did the games out of order. There's only 6 of them. Yeah. This was just not a good showcase, folks. And then, too, just the super politicized push of the first game in the showcase. It's just like, come on. I want to enjoy my games, folks. I don't want to be in a game where I'm constantly being reminded of stuff and things being pushed to an extent where it's like, okay, it's pretty blatant what you're shooting for here. You know, great, but keep it out of my freaking game. And I don't care what side of the coin you're on politically, or if you care at all. I really don't. We all have the ability to vote how we want, believe how we want. That's what makes us Americans. Okay? We're not of some different creed. We're not some different race. We're Americans. And we used to remember that as a society. And there's been so much division and divisiveness through the political parties and through the news media and through COVID and lockdowns, dare I say it, in our educational system. I mean, it's just been destructive, and I hope you guys can see it for what it is. But I mean, I do not want politics in our games, and I don't want them at the mall. I don't want them at the park where our kids play. Okay, I just want us to see us as human beings, and that we take the time to engage and help each other instead of just, pointing out the things that separate us, that set us apart from each other. We're Americans, folks. It's as simple as that. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. Again, I've done, I'll put some cards up. I've done Starfield Direct. I've done Xbox and PlayStation Showcase and Summer Game Fest. I'm not going to do any others. This is the last one. There's still Capcom out there, and there's still a few others, so you can find them pretty easily out on YouTube if you also want to see those yourself. And feel free to look at any of these showcases too that I've commented on. What are your thoughts on it all? And yeah, I've enjoyed doing this for you. I've definitely saved some of you some grief by taking the time to watch some of this crap. And other people have too, like Young Yeah, Mr. Matty Plays, The Angry Joe Show, and so on and so forth. There's plenty of other channels out there that do a great job. So if you're enjoying the channel, go ahead and give me a like, a follow, and all that jazz. You can find me at Don't Tread on Thee on Twitch, and you can also find me at Gaming Garbage 22 on YouTube. So hopefully you guys are having a wonderful week. Remember, folks, we are all Americans, and we should respect each other as such. And we don't have to agree. People don't have to agree with everything, but we should all respect each other. And with that, I'll see you guys on the next one.